Before Clara, my life was beige. It was the color of my cubicle walls, the color of the instant oatmeal I ate for breakfast every morning, the color of the silence in my one-bedroom apartment. I didn't live a life, I occupied a space, waiting for the days to bleed into one another. I'm a data analyst. My job is to find patterns in chaos, to look at millions of scattered data points and find a story. But in my own life, there was no story, just noise. Then I found her. Or maybe she found me. It was on Elysian Fields, one of those exclusive, algorithm-driven dating apps that cost a fortune. You don't just swipe. You answer 100 questions about your philosophy, your fears, your secret ambitions. The app promises not a date, but a destined connection. I thought it was pretentious nonsense. I was just lonely. Her profile picture wasn't a selfie. It was a candid shot. She was in a kitchen, mid-laugh, her hands dusted with flour. Sunlight streamed through a window, catching the red highlights in her dark hair, making her look like a figure from a Renaissance painting. Her name was Clara. We matched. Her first message wasn't "hey." It was, "Your profile says you fear mediocrity more than death. I find that fascinating. Tell me why." Our conversations were intoxicating. She was a private chef, a culinary artist who spoke of food not as sustenance, but as a language, a way to tell stories, to evoke memories, to express love. She was brilliant, witty. She saw the world in vibrant colors, while I was still stuck in beige. For the first time in years, I felt seen. After a week of nonstop messaging, she invited me over for dinner. "Don't eat lunch," she texted. "I'm planning a 7-course narrative for you." Her apartment was in a restored brownstone downtown. It was warm, filled with books, art, and the most incredible aroma I had ever smelled. It was a symphony of spices I couldn't name, a rich, savory scent that promised everything. And there she was, even more beautiful than her pictures. "Alex," she said, her voice like warm honey. "Welcome." That night, I didn't just have a meal, I had an experience. Each course was a chapter, a delicate scallop ceviche that tasted of the sea and longing, a wild mushroom risotto so earthy and rich it felt like a secret whispered from the forest floor. The main course was a revelation. A cut of meat I didn't recognize, slow roasted for hours, so tender it dissolved on my tongue. It had a unique, slightly sweet, deeply complex flavor. "What is this?" I asked, my voice filled with awe. "It's incredible." Clara smiled, a slow, enigmatic smile that made my heart ache. "It's an old family recipe. The secret is the sourcing. You can't find this quality in any store." I noticed then she wasn't eating the main course with me. She was just sipping her wine, watching me. Her eyes, they had an intensity that was both thrilling and unsettling. "Aren't you having any?" I asked. "Oh, I've been tasting it all day." The chef's curse. "By the time it's served, you're already full." "My pleasure comes from watching you enjoy it." It made sense. Everything about her made a strange, perfect sense. I was a man starving in a beige desert, and she was an oasis. I drank it all in, greedily. We fell in love. Or I did. Completely and irrevocably. The weeks that followed were a blur of color. She painted over the beige walls of my life with crimson and gold. And at the center of it all were her dinner parties. "I want to meet your friends," she said one evening, her head resting on my chest. "The people who form your world. I want to understand them, cook for them." My world was small. There was Mark, my college roommate, loud, boisterous, the kind of guy who filled any room he entered. There was Sarah, my colleague, sharp, cynical, fiercely protective. And there was Ben, my oldest friend from childhood, quiet, gentle, a video game designer who rarely left his apartment. They were my scattered data points, my only story. I was so proud to introduce her to them, so eager to show them the masterpiece I had found. "A dinner party," I said. "They would love that." Clara's eyes lit up with that familiar, intense fire. "Wonderful," she whispered, her lips brushing against my ear. "I'll create a menu just for them. Something unforgettable." And it was. It was the beginning of the end. I just didn't know it yet. I was the frog in a pot of slowly warming water. The heat was rising, but the water felt so good, so perfect. The first dinner party was for Mark. Clara insisted on celebrating his recent promotion. She called it an ode to ambition. The apartment was filled with candlelight, the air hummed with jazz and the scent of roasting herbs. Mark, true to form, was captivated by Clara within minutes. He laughed at all her jokes, hung on her every word. "Alex, you lucky bastard," he slurred happily, clapping me on the back. "You finally found a unicorn." The food was, as always, divine. The centerpiece was a magnificent crown roast. Clara presented it with a flourish, her face flushed with pride. For the man of the hour. We ate, we drank, we laughed. I watched Clara, my perfect Clara, effortlessly charm my best friend, and my heart swelled with a foolish, possessive pride. That was the last time I ever saw Mark. 2 days later, I got a text from his phone. "Hey man, crazy opportunity came up, hopping on a flight to Singapore for a new project, T2YL. It was abrupt, strange. Mark wasn't the type to make life-changing decisions on a whim, but he was ambitious. It was plausible. I called him. It went straight to voicemail. Sarah was the first to plant the seed of doubt. She asked me over coffee, her brow furrowed. "You don't find that weird? He didn't mention anything about a new project, and his social media has gone completely silent." "He's busy, Sarah," I said, a little too defensively. "It's a huge opportunity." "Is it?" she pressed, her sharp eyes searching mine. "Or is that just what you want to believe?" I felt a flash of anger. She was questioning my happiness. She was questioning Clara. A week later, Clara decided to host another dinner, this time for Ben. To draw him out of his shell, she said, a comfort food symphony. Ben was nervous, as always. He sat hunched in his chair, barely speaking, but Clara, she was a magician. She spoke to him about video game narratives, about world building. She asked him questions no one ever bothered to ask. I saw him slowly unfurl, his shy smile making a rare appearance. The main course was a rich, dark stew. It was hearty and complex, with layers of flavor that were both comforting and deeply mysterious. Ben had 3 helpings. "This is the best thing I've ever eaten," he mumbled, his cheeks red. Clara beamed. "Food is my love language, Ben." The next morning, Ben was gone. His landlord called me concerned. Ben's door was unlocked, his wallet and keys on the table. His computer was still on, a half-finished level design glowing on the screen. He had just vanished. This time, there was no text message, no plausible explanation, just a gaping, silent void where my oldest friend used to be. I went to the police. They were polite, but dismissive. "A grown man, Mr. Thorne. He has the right to disappear. We'll file a report." When I told Clara, she held me as I fell apart. She stroked my hair and murmured comforting words. "He'll be back, my love. He probably just needed some space." Her embrace was my sanctuary. Her logic was my anchor in a sea of rising panic. But the seed Sarah had planted was beginning to sprout. A tiny, cold tendril of dread curling in my gut. It was the freezer. In her otherwise warm, inviting kitchen, there was a massive stainless steel chest freezer, the kind you see in a butcher shop. It was always locked. When I'd asked about it, she'd given me a perfectly reasonable answer. "I buy my specialty meats in bulk, darling, directly from private farms upstate. It's the only way to ensure quality." It made sense. Of course it did. Everything about Clara made sense. But now, the locked freezer felt less like a chef's quirk and more like a tomb. One night, while she was sleeping, I found the key. It was on a small, ornate chain she wore around her neck. I never saw her take it off. My hands trembled as I slipped it from her skin. Her breathing was deep, even. She didn't stir. I crept into the kitchen. The moonlight cast long, distorted shadows on the floor. The freezer hummed, a low, predatory sound. I inserted the key. It turned with a heavy, metallic click that seemed to echo in the silence. My heart was a jackhammer against my ribs. "Just look," I told myself. "Just look and prove Sarah wrong. Prove this cold dread in your stomach is just grief playing tricks on you." I lifted the heavy lid. The first thing that hit me was the cold. A deep, biting cold that seemed to suck the warmth from my body. The freezer was packed with white, butcher paper wrapped parcels. Dozens of them. They were all neatly labeled in Clara's elegant script. But the labels weren't pork loin or beef ribs. They were codes, dates, initials. My eyes scanned the packages, desperately trying to make sense of them. And then I saw it. Near the top of the pile. A smaller, squarish package. The label read, MR, Promotion Roast. And right next to it, a larger, heavier parcel dated from the week before. BK, Comfort Stew. Mark. Ben. The air left my lungs in a silent scream. I couldn't breathe. The beige was gone. My world wasn't beige anymore. It was the stark, clinical white of butcher paper. And the deep, visceral red I could only imagine lay beneath it. I gently closed the lid, locked it, crept back to the bedroom and slipped the key back around Clara's neck. I lay beside her, my body rigid, my mind a vortex of horror. I stared at the woman sleeping peacefully beside me. This beautiful, brilliant, loving woman. Her breathing was even, her face was serene, and all I could smell was the faint, sweet, savory scent of the roast from that first night. The scent of her kitchen. The scent of a slaughterhouse. Sleep became a luxury I could no longer afford. How do you share a bed with a monster? The problem was, she didn't feel like a monster. She would wake up, kiss my cheek, and make me coffee. She'd ask about my day and listen with genuine interest. Her love felt real. Her tenderness felt real. And that was the most terrifying part. My life became a performance. I was an actor in a play where I was the only one who knew the final act was a tragedy. Every meal she made was a fresh wave of nausea I had to swallow down with a smile. Every touch was a current of ice-cold fear. I started losing weight. Dark circles formed under my eyes. "You're working too hard, my love," Clara would say, stroking my face with a gentle hand, the same hand that wrapped the packages in the freezer. "Let me make you something special tonight to build up your strength." Each offer of food felt like a threat. My only lifeline was Sarah. I had to warn her. But how? I couldn't call her. I had a gnawing suspicion that Clara was monitoring my phone. I felt watched. Every moment of every day. I started my own investigation. A pathetic, terrified search for what? Confirmation of the madness I already knew to be true? I went through her books. They were mostly cookbooks, poetry, classic literature. But tucked away on a high shelf, I found them. A collection of antique medical textbooks, anatomy charts, a worn, leather-bound volume titled On the Sustenance of the Superior Man, filled with pseudo-scientific ramblings about absorbing the life force of others through consumption. It was the manifesto of a madman. The worst discovery, however, was the notebook. It was a beautiful moleskin journal I'd given her for her birthday. "For your brilliant recipes," I had said. I found it in her bedside table while she was in the shower. The sound of the water running was a countdown timer on my sanity. My hands shook as I opened it. The first few pages were what I expected. Cookbooks for bouillabaisse, for coq au vin, written in her perfect script. But then, the entries began to change. The handwriting became more clinical, the descriptions more detailed. She didn't write recipes for food. She wrote them for people. Subject: the salesman. Mid-40s, heavy smoker. Lungs are useless. Liver is compromised, but the thighs are well marbled. Responds well to a slow braise. Pairs with a bold Cabernet. Subject: the runner. Early 20s, excellent cardio. Muscle tissue is lean, almost sinewy. Best prepared as carpaccio, sliced thin. Minimal seasoning required to appreciate the vitality. I flipped through the pages, my stomach churning. Each entry was a ghost, a missing person I'd probably seen on the news and forgotten about. And then I found the pages I was dreading. The pages dedicated to my friends. Subject: Mark R. Guest of honor. High body fat percentage, a life of indulgence. excellent for sausage and rendered fat. His ambition gave the meat a spicy, aggressive flavor, a crowd pleaser. I had to muffle a gag with my hand. A crowd pleaser? I had eaten the sausage she made for brunch the weekend after Mark disappeared. I had told her it was the best I'd ever had. I forced myself to turn the page. Subject: Ben K. The introvert. Sedentary lifestyle. Muscle is underdeveloped, almost bland. However, his quiet nature and rich inner world seem to infuse the bone marrow, perfect for a long-simmered, soulful stew. Soulful. She had called my gentle, kind, harmless Ben soulful, and she had fed his soul to me in a bowl. The water in the shower shut off. I slammed the notebook shut, shoved it back in the drawer, and scrambled back into bed just as the bathroom door opened. Clara emerged wrapped in a towel, a cloud of steam billowing behind her. She smiled at me.
"Everything all right, darling?" she asked. "You look pale." Just a headache," I managed to choke out. "I have just the thing for that," she said, her voice full of care. "A nice, iron-rich broth." I knew I was next. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but she was studying me, calibrating my flavor profile. I was no longer her lover. I was a future meal being fattened for the slaughter. I had to get out. I had to get to Sarah. I managed to use a computer at the library the next day. I created a new anonymous email account. My message to Sarah was frantic, disjointed. "Sarah, urgent. We are in danger. Clara is not who she says she is. Don't eat her food. Don't talk to her. Meet me. Tomorrow, 3 p.m. Oak Street Park, by the fountain. Come alone. Delete this email. Don't reply." An hour later, I got a one-word reply. "Okay." A sliver of hope. For the first time in weeks, a tiny pinprick of light in the suffocating darkness. I just had to survive for 24 more hours. I had to perform the role of the loving boyfriend for one more night. When I got back to the apartment, Clara was waiting for me. The lights were dim. A single candle burned on the dining table, which was set for 2. "Surprise," she said softly. "I thought, with everything that's been happening, we deserved a special night, just us, a sort of early anniversary." My blood ran cold. "You shouldn't have," I said, my voice a strained whisper. "Oh, but I had to," she replied, gliding towards me. She took my hand. Her touch sent a jolt of terror through my body. "I'm making my most personal recipe, the very first one I ever perfected." She led me to the table. In the center sat a covered silver serving dish. "Tonight, Alex, tonight, you will finally, truly understand my love."